Good morning and welcome to the Coffee with the Editor series, proudly sponsored by IRZ. This morning I am having coffee with Andrae Nieuwoudt from Knorr Bremse. He is the General Manager for Rail. So Andrae, thank you very much for joining me this morning. For my readers who don't know, expand a bit more on Knorr Bremse, what you do, products and services. Just give us a background and some history.
Knorr Bremse is, used to be majority brake system supply. These days also doors and HVACs and some other railway equipped equipment. We also have a truck division in South Africa, which I'm in full part of though. On the rail side, we have been in the country since 1969, so we've been out here for a long time. We own our own building in Kempton Park, Spartanmore to be more exact. And we are, I think, generally regarded as South Africa's largest supplier of locomotive, freight and passenger rail brake control systems, with some other peripherals sitting around that. We are approximately 180 people in the company. We would have been a lot more had we delivered on, for example, the 1064 quicker, but because of the delay in deliveries, we had to suit and change the workforce to suit the demand.
So the 1064 project and the Gabella project, what was Knorr's involvement, or what is Knorr's involvement there?
So on the 1064 we were really fortunate to have received the brake control systems on all four type locomotives supplied. We supply not 100% of all the equipment. For example, on the Chinese south or Zalk locomotives, we do not supply, for example, the compressors. We supply all other brake control equipment. Then again, on the diesel Chinese locomotive, we do not supply the air dryers. We in turn supply all the other equipment again. Also on the GE locomotives, it's on the Class 44s, very similar equipment that we supplied on the Class 43s. So it excludes again the compressor and exhauster there, as well as the air dryer. All other control systems we supplied, and on the diesels, actually there's also the vacuum equipment that we supply, and now within the group we're the only people in the group supplying vacuum. So for example, on the Foslo locomotives, those doomed locomotives, we have supplied to our colleagues in Spain the vacuum, who then supplied the brake control, both air and vacuum, onto those locomotives for Foslo. And then on the BT locomotives, we have the full Monty there. We supply all the equipment.
Before the contract came about, you guys invested quite significantly in your facilities here in South Africa. What kind of investment and training are we talking about?
Yeah, that was quite a year that we had before we had to start supplying. So in that year we basically revamped Knorr completely. We moved equipment around, we added a lot of new equipment, and we suited that investment for the demand of 48 locomotives a month. 12 suppliers, 12 locomotives per supplier, 4 suppliers, equates to 48 locomotives. The sad thing is though that a little bit over 100 million rand investment, we could have probably done with half of that, because we have 1 month only, many years ago, supplied 39 locomotives. That's the highest we ever supplied. And after that, on average about 12 locomotives a month, but we have been down to 0 locomotives a month, as in January and February of this year would be nothing.
What's caused this kind of delay?
Well, we all know that it was originally planned as a 7-year delivery. When it was awarded, because of the demand at the time, it was awarded also to 4 suppliers to speed up the delivery. And it was planned we would have delivered the last locomotives by the end of 2017. We're already sitting in 2019. And for example, in the Zalk locomotives, we have supplied 40 locomotives out of their 232. and they have built locally 2 locomotives. So it's a whole array of reasons for it. They're building much slower. Their suppliers are behind, joint ventures with various people that's causing this as well. I think there's also a lot of that in the media, why things are behind on supply. So this brings me back to the fact that we could have done with a lot less investment.
What is the direct impact, aside from not really realizing the job creation potential, besides the cost of the investment, what is the other impacts?
Well, I think, the intent was good. The intent was a high localization, and we have, despite the low quantities, achieved, following several audits, achieved the local content requirements. We on average about a little bit over 70%, between 72 and 74% local content on these contracts. And to have achieved that, you had to invest, you had to develop, not just in your own factory, but also in suppliers around you. Foundries, patterns for castings, machining, and training. So if you look at the ED and SD, the intent was good, but the sad thing is that we had to employ people to train them, and then couldn't keep them economically active. We can't just keep them there for maybe one day, and we needed less people. So people had to be let go of because of that, and I think the impact, not just on us, which have not achieved forecasts and things, sometimes running at big losses. It's very, very steep, the competition on these projects for the capital projects. Mostly you hope to make something back in maintenance cycles that follow in the years to come, but during the OE supply is very, very marginal. And then obviously the impact on the people that work for you. I think that was probably the more sad part of it.
It's all that excitement and then to naught.
Big flash in the pan.
Yes. So if we had to take that project and the Gabella project and kind of seeing the news recently from Transnet's stakeholder breakfast a couple of weeks ago, their idea of maybe reducing numbers and modifying the contracts, that's obviously going to have another impact, because you're geared to deliver 48 of these particular components in a month. You're behind on that delivery, no fault of your own, but what happens over the next 12 months?
Yeah, 2 years back, we would have finished by 2019. It looked like we're sitting in 2019. On some of these projects, we'll be only finishing in 2021. So far, even though I think it's a kind of obvious deduction that maybe we've seen in the press that don't need as many locomotives now, I think it would be very difficult to get out of these. We've seen historically on other contracts where maybe there were too many locomotives. It's very difficult to get out of it. So I think it just prolongs the delivery and has a better cash flow for Transnet. From who do they take away? It's another difficult thing to answer. And then by the time that it's gone through the courts, maybe all the locomotives, hopefully all the locomotives are delivered, because that could be a very lengthy process as well. But yet, anything is possible, I guess, these days, and it depends on how much you want something and how much you would push for it. Certainly we don't hope it happens. Maybe by the time that all the new locomotives is delivered, they can get rid perhaps of more of the older locomotives. I believe that the new locomotives are running a lot more efficiently. Availability is much more improved than the older refurb locomotives. We've got very, very old locomotives, dating back to the 1960s,
Absolutely.
Still in service. Yes, and they've gone through modernization projects, but it's still, at the heart of it, it's still old technology.
So whilst we're on the topic of technology, how has this technology changed over the years?
It's been a big change. If you think about the control system, which are now virtually purely electronic with pneumatic backup versus purely pneumatic in the past, mechanical pneumatic I should say. you have much more predictability, you have much more information being fed back from the systems. You know what's wrong. You can replace that. We have what we call line replacement units. So you don't have to take up the whole system, you know which one is faulty, it tells you which one is faulty.
Wow.
So pretty much like your car these days, and I think they were even a little bit more advanced, ahead of automobiles, where you have the feedback telling you what's wrong. You know, you've blown a globe, for example. That's been on rail brake control systems since the last 20 years, I guess, more or less. It's just that sometimes we're a little bit behind. We don't renew so often as European and North America do. If you think about, for example, the state-of-the-art ECP, WDP brake systems that went in about 2009, 2010 on the coal line. South Africa at the time were the largest introducer of ECP-WDP technology. Is the means of running extremely long trains with half the stopping distances than normal pneumatic control systems. And they're still running, and they're still working. And I think certainly there, despite the growing pains going through the conversion from the old to the new technology, resistance to change and so forth, it's paid off for Transnet, and to the fact that some of the new locomotives have and also still have to be equipped with ECP WDP control systems.
So positive takeaways. I think we found a few.
Yeah, look, there are obviously positive takeaways. It's if you think about the market has benefited certainly from later technology. The customer has seen improved technology and controls with longer cycle times, for example. Mean times between services has greatly improved. We're looking at sort of 8 years between major service overhauls. Obviously you have to do very little monthly, but 6 monthly and annual services. For Knorr Bremse, I think it was an opportunity to invest in the later technologies. We have a lot of equipment sitting around now which are only half utilized in some cases. But I think we're very much geared for the future with the technology which is fairly present. Yes, I think also it's given us again an edge. We are the largest on the continent. The plant in Spartan is on par with the group.
Yes.
If you walk into any of the group businesses, you would hardly see the difference if you were blindfolded before you go through the entrance. So I think from that point of view, we've brought something to the industry which I think is we're quite unique. And I think we've seen this the last time probably in the 60s, well maybe 2008 with the 15 and 19s, where we also got both.
Yes.
2008, 2009, and then before that in the 60s with the build of the 61s at UCW at the time.
Knorr Bremse in Africa, I'm sure you guys are active.
Yeah, look, I mean, doing business in Africa is often difficult, and yes, we have spares business all over the globe, going all the way up to Ghana, for example, where we have systems running, control systems running. We take care, especially in the AAR world, of the maintenance of that. We're not strong on UIC in this country, it's really just the blue train, and then the Gautrain also with our brake systems and our doors on. For the rest of Africa, mostly modernization happening through somebody that's the contractor to do the complete locomotive modernization. So we have modernized brake systems, sometimes in production, sometimes in prototype, for the likes of Namibia and Botswana and Zambia, for example. There's a lot of our systems running in Mozambique. We don't have offices in these places, but we strongly support on site as well as from the plant in Johannesburg for spares, for training. We do training in places like Accra and other East and Africa, West Africa countries for that matter. It would be nice to have a wider, a bigger footprint there. But I think that's going to come probably with new investment and new locomotives and new wagons. Vacuum is still unfortunately fairly strong, but we have done in excess of 700 freight wagon modernization upgrades from vacuum to air brake in Mozambique, for example, for Vale and CDN and so forth. So that's slowly but surely getting on, but it's really, you can see that it's spent where there's income, where there's money, when it's well managed.
But there is obviously huge potential for you guys in Africa.
Yes, of course, there's huge potential, and to make it easy, we've come up with very special packages also for easy installation of brake systems, for example. That it's with a fairly unskilled staff and a normal yard, they were able to do the likes of 5 freight wagons per day on these upgrades. Payments out of Africa is always kind of difficult, and this is why we don't get involved with the customer right there. Somebody is working locally, and we have a contract with that service provider.
For the rest of this year, the next 12 months, what do you see happening? Are you a bit more positive? Are you still quite nervous?
I think we're going through the lowest dip right now. We were still fairly active last year. Many of these locomotive builders have a lot of stock at the moment. They're building slower than the delivery schedules from us were required. For example, if I can give an example, we were supposed to deliver 36 locomotive brake systems for Dalian. That was reduced to 32. It was reduced to 24, and at the moment we have to supply only 9, and we'll see if that 9 is going to happen towards the end of the year, because it's always just delay. Obviously a terrible negative for us on this is that most of these guys, because they are delayed in delivery, they don't get paid, and therefore our debtors are also running off the page, which is what we're carrying. We should register as a bank almost, because we're financing a lot of people in that respect. But for the rest of the year, we're going to be building more locomotives for Zalk. They've also reduced the original quantities, but it's still reasonable. It's about 52 locomotives for this year. The 9 for Zalk. BT, we're still waiting on the latest plans there. We have equipment still sitting with us, which they haven't collected yet. G, as we know, is completely finished. And then it's Gebella with the door system, entrances, shall I say, where we do both the drive system as well as the leaf. And they have also reduced from about 42 trains this year to 27, and first to 32 and now to 27. We're seeing if we can increase that a little bit. The problem though is, you have a fixed contract with a supplier, with a customer. You then go to a supplier to give him a quantity per month, based on which he gives you a price, and now you don't buy so many. So he says, well, I need to increase my price, and we can't do that with our customer. Kind of don't understand it. That you have to now come with a higher price. So from that point of view, it's going to be tough, but we have quite a few coming out in this year. Much less than what was originally planned, but a little bit more sustainable over the long period of time. Another 2-3 years to go. Obviously, Gebella, we're going all the way to 2028, just about, with those locomotives, those door systems. And hopefully there's another 3,600 coaches following after that.
Andrae, thank you very much for joining me, and I wish you guys all the best, and I hope when I next have coffee with you, you have some good positive news to share with me.
Appreciate that, and let's hope so.